All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Bloomingdale School District 13 Board of Education meeting on this Monday, May 22nd at 7 p.m. Our first order is the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'd all join. Ms. Whitaker, could you call the roll?
Mr. Rabbit? Mr. Carroll?
Here.
Mr. Hewen?
Here.
Mrs. Peterson? Here. Mrs. Wojcicki? Here. Mrs. Debbie? Here. Mr. Landisa?
Here. Tonight, we will recognize and celebrate our students that have gone above and beyond in support of our community and district. Mr. Paul will present our above and beyond recipients this evening.
The Board of Education has regularly used monthly business meetings to recognize the efforts of students, staff, and community, their accomplishments and contributions to the school district. The chairman's dictionary defines what it means to go above and beyond as more or better than will usually be expected of someone. Tonight will be identifying and celebrating students from all three schools in the district for going above and beyond. And first one is from the Garden Line, the Avery Brooks. Avery is a third grade student at the Garden Elementary, and they're a role model for others. She begins every day by reading her peers and teachers with a smile. Avery is a positive student that aspires to do her best in everything she does. He feels deeply for others and truly understands that everyone benefits when they receive support and kindness. Avery advocates of herself and her peers. She always seeks to help her peers and teachers when needed. She's always looking out for her classmates and wants to see the people around her succeed. Making the Garden Elementary a better place, improving the lives of those around her. The Board of Education recognizes Avery's work to be above and beyond her wisdom. He has been such a positive role model for his class. The students are having a positive honor with the first after taking it out. He is passionate, positive talking, was working on for this other students. For the classmate needs encouragement, honor is always there to fight the conflict. He will ask if they would like to walk with them both areas. Honor brings patience for his peers, and his social life and he makes his peers feel included and valued. Honor is always here to learn. He doesn't let challenges stop him. Keep persisting until the figure it out. For his overall positivity, empathy, and willingness to learn, the Board of Education honors the award uncommon, the honor is beyond words and Tyler is a 7th grade student at Westview. Tyler displays all the characteristics of an outstanding warrior, in and out of the classroom. He's always welcoming to all students and families that he encounters both in school and out in the community. Tyler excels in his class, always looking forward to the best of others and quality work in his assignments and studies. He is also an active member of the Boy Scout Working, Scout Agility, and Shelter. When Tyler is not on the board or the side, he gladly volunteers to help with them help set up for that, and competency, and help us to be on the end. For the competency and leadership, making an excellent example of what it means to be a warrior. The warrior education seeks to recognize the primary role as the allowed to be on the warrior and make.
Congratulations again to our recipients. We're going to proceed with the rest of our business meeting. So at this time, you're all welcome to stay if you'd like. But if you'd like to go do other things, you're free to do so. Now is an opportune time.
Wait, Daniel.
Excellent. All right. For our next order of business, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes previous meeting minutes, financial and personnel matters? Discussion? Or you got that recorded? Any discussion? All right, seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Ms. Whitaker, can you please call the roll? Aye. Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Bartel?
Yes, Mr. Larson, before we get started, could you prop that door open? Because technically, yeah, I know. We have to keep it open for the meeting, so. That people know that there's a meeting in progress.
Yes.
All right, well, first in my report tonight is our most important report of the evening. Our school improvement plan presentations. We have representatives from all three of our schools here that will talk a little bit about their goal setting process, the highlight in achieving their goals for the year, and what maybe a projection as to what they're going to be doing for the year to come. So to begin, we will start with our elementary buildings. Since they do their goals together, we're going to have them present at the same time. And so I would ask that our principals and any representatives from their teams present the Erickson and Desjardins School Improvement Plan Goal Update at this time.
We have to employee behavior on their promotion and they don't have a work obligation. So, and if I change your our goals listed up there, relationships, everything on reading and math, coming to them on relationship. So our first so we value relationships, whether it be with our students, with each other. And so our goal this year has been to continue our belonging and encourage each other. And so one of the ways in which we work on with a big undertaking was creating our school-wide behavior bench. And I spoke about it earlier, This is our first year in full implementation, where we created the academic board, which involves safety, ownership, appreciation, and wonderful to and we're before I started, we like Jaguar was a bigger capital, we responsible, and we care.
Yeah, we really couldn't figure out the right need, so. It's not the, like, I don't know, it's what we all look forward to.
And making sure that all students know and understand what their expectations are. So by creating this, we said to students, this is what it means to be safe, ownership, appreciation, respect. And we spent a year building that acronym. So in the holiday, kids know what it means to be safe. In the past, they know what it means to appreciate each other. So teachers also created their own for guidelines or and as students are walking down the hallway, when we see them in the hallway, and they're supposed to be quiet, the rules are. And so in the past, we've always, every teacher kind of developed their own behavior management system for their class, their own, whether it be score lead or whatever it was. And so this was the first time in 23 years I've been at Air where we have a plan that the entire school follows and implements. So it's really nice to have the same expectations from staff in the hallway. And so I'm talking with a teacher, we're talking about the same for and the students all know, show me board, they know exactly what that means, they follow it, and they show me. We also had created a school year where we is what it means to work at school, and then we also celebrated student celebrations. So it wasn't just an assembly to say, hey, these are the expectations, we need to train, but all the celebrations, all the good things that students are doing. We did a great time this school year. We also have one late Eagle that we've had out now in yesterday, 88 years ago. Students from a variety of help me and they meet with a different teacher. So we're closely with 10 students, 10 to 15 students from grade first and fifth. And during those meetings, we're going to store as well as and they do activities. That's what that means. We'll get to see that going into next year, and then we also see those players, and then they have all of it. So that is one way we kind of develop to build those relationships with staff, students, and then they have the next grade. So that was a new program that we started here. And both of us and we'll need middle school, probably will have next year, but I understand. Regulation, 20 different lessons that each student goes through. They're different for example, emotional regulation. So there are lessons for the readers here, like reading position. There are 20 different lessons that involve things like that. What do I do if I'm not having and we can't seem to pick team captain? So these lessons help them for the reporting. Beyond that, the faculty will also have more meetings, specific lessons, which means there's nothing more meetings than talking about the things that are things they need to continue to work on, that they can have a strong, healthy relationship with it. Beyond having that, we also, we both schools, all schools, connection card survey. And we always do very well. It's 96% above the beginning of the year. But there's always students, let's say there's students in full grade level, say fourth grade. There's always a couple that will respond that they don't have to. They don't feel like they belong. They don't feel like they have a chance to do. Last year, we found out of the 40+ new students that we had last year, they didn't feel like they were more likely to know for those reasons. So, over the summer, we were kind of developing a student gap that we should fully implement this using the results of that. And where 24 grade students were chosen to be student ambassadors in 5th grade, they were trained over the summer, and they wrote letters to all the new students, and the new students received letters at a time welcoming them to school, everything themselves. We had a meeting where all the new students came in before the school year started. For the building, they got to meet their students. So this was to talk about for the school year. And then when that was they parents to give them, get all their questions and just do. And then throughout the school year, we continued with monthly meetings and in-plan activities with their mentors, or their students. What we found is the conclusion of the school year is that they didn't pop up on the screen, they didn't pop up on the survey that they were not feeling that they belong, they had a friendship, they had no longer is that an issue. So we're going to continue to use the student ambassador program to meet the needs of building those relationships in the building. And this year, what we found is when we were looking at the data, we found that the kids who were still responding no, are the kids who love having stronger relations with adults over the years. Those are not just need to have the relationship. The teacher would have to have the relationship with their principal, with teacher. So this year we're talking about during our social meeting, a peer mentor program, or even like a peer result program, to meet the needs of the kids, just mean that they said no, but although we would say they come with often or something like that, but to give them that extra boost, so that's what we're going to do this year. And then some other things that we did this year that was different was student loan. A lot of kids said, I want to really into Legos or what have you, and so then they developed their own program. We had pages like how they read one of the student loan clubs, and then that helped to create strong relationships and gave them. So those are some new things that we tried this year that were beneficial to build relationships.
All right, so our next goal was on reading, and this was a very simple goal as far as administration implementation, simply taking on the foundation curriculum and having our five years. Feel about they were really pop charts. I told you like if they were pop charts at the end, I would forget. So if you recall in February here, I said that first grade was 20 last year. They grew 9 last year. They grew 14 this year. So it's a huge improvement. And then last year, overall, they grew 20 in foundational skills. This year, they grew 28, which is by a bit higher strand of anything on that. So we saw a lot of benefits in the perfect. We didn't see the same benefits on the different remotely by we have to have it because of the half-day program. And then one part of the foundation were implemented for the local region, which is still needed. And it's understanding of so foundation and just talk about can you be able to so when we're in the defines is huge, the portable reader, that's something we really did next year. If you recall FMP, we used to do FMP, but we would level kids, they can only be a B level book or a G level book. Now we're everybody is in A1 level and 2 level, we have a books. We're doing way of leveling students. I agree with the word instruction. The idea that we're not going to tell kids that they memorize words. They have to understand that word has an action. They have to understand the action in the words. We do that, we'll be more successful. Also, rethinking the idea of the national reading becomes a word that do you do? I had a fourth grade teacher with the ability of anybody want to talk. Keep reading and reading. Sure. But kids have to find a word that it's like a moment. So our teachers are now getting to amplify the family, like resources as far as history. So we've been doing some of that and this year and building kids more knowledge and understanding. And so for being
I was just talking to one of our, super famous artists, really big in the green. She was listening to all of them, going off, and coming down. It's just now that and so that means you are already ahead of what could be mandated by the state of Illinois. So I thought that was interesting. We're learning, doing the right thing. Or influencers that are put in here. We had the idea of how do we promote thinking in math classes specifically so that students are engaged and that they're truly kind of challenging themselves with the material before the teachers are actually instructing it. So the biggest thing here was how can students persevere, collaborate with each other, and then how are they able to kind of come to an understanding. And so Nancy Green, math interventionist, study at Erickson, and she worked with us to kind of delve into the process and understand the systems behind it. And we found that really engaging in vertical standing whiteboard in the room with students standing instead of in chairs, right? And so they're engaging in randomized groups, and you give them a problem or a task that maybe they haven't even seen. And you kind of say, okay, go out and work together. One person gets the marker, and they have to communicate, and they have to say, okay, where do we think we start? And the person with the marker then goes to check. So it's truly, getting them to be challenged, to collaborate, work together, and the learning that I saw take place in that kind of environment was more than I've seen sometimes through this. So what was even better was that then a bunch of teachers went and got happening at Westfield, and Westfield teachers are already doing this in the classroom to incorporate it into every topic. And so we have to go and kind of see it in play. And it was amazing to see that the kids knew exactly what to do, the expectations were there. And from what we had kind of been starting to put into play, they were already doing, and we saw the engagement taking place. So bringing it back and saying, what we're doing is working. Really, really neat to see, and to see the kids get excited about something other than, sitting, working on the whiteboard, but how they can work together and really show their learning and provide a solution without even being instructed by a teacher was really neat. So that is one of our big implementation processes. We also focused on raising awareness for the Illinois adoption rate. We worked with math instructor Carol Beasley at a lot of professional development meetings. She came to both elementary schools and worked with teachers on diving into the priority standards in Illinois. So we can kind of see, okay, where's our focus? What's going to be probably a part of AR, and we get this so that students can feel more comfortable with it before they get to the situation. And kind of help them to see, okay, how can I break down this problem that seems really overwhelming and work with it and show myself, okay, I can persevere through that when it might seem really challenging. So we spent a lot of time kind of getting our different assessments and teaching my kids how to break them down. They really seem great with it. So I'm going to see how this is going to look on IAL. We started off with a paper and then get to the computer so they can familiarize themselves with the tools and things like that. The students, I will say, after just tapping and hearing from other classrooms that they were a lot more confident in really those ones. We will receive those results until the fall. We'll get back to you, but we're hoping that we'll be allowed that to be. The final thing that we kind of worked on this year was also working towards a math goal. And so to do this, we differentiated instruction during a math class, which is an additional math activity built into the week. And so each grade level would break down understanding, and based on student need, they would then differentiate their lesson to meet the kids' rhythm and provide that their challenge support the priority standards, and then as well as anything else that maybe doesn't get hit early on in the school year, so that we're still kind of giving them that turn that they need to progress the next year. So with all three of these, there's some kind of like thinking systems, they are, and that we've seen a lot of engagement, growth, and hoping that, we'll continue to work on it over the summer since and try and continue on everything.
Well, again, I can't thank the Jordan and Erickson teams enough. It sounds as though it's been a very successful year. Are there things that we can see coming up in the fall that are going to be your priorities for consideration for your upcoming school improvement plans?
But I think we're follow the same model this year, our definitely having an SDL, we're definitely looking at some relationships and everything for our students. CLA is coming out this year, but the big rollout, but definitely going to be a goal for definitely DLA. And we'll see how we do on that. Hopefully we'll see an improvement in type 2 and type 3 specifically on the IAR. If we don't, we need to try to do something different. Because that's what the main
The only addition to we talk a lot in our years was in meetings is that doing meetings. We can start to decline over the years and when we have a big head, it's time before, and it makes them so long, they get today. So what is it? So we've had lots of good conversations that are going for the team, or doing, there's a lot of things and next summer to try to learn more about this and see what are the best ways to teach kids number one and really understanding in middle of it.
Okay. Well, do any members of our Board of Education have any questions for our elementary school presenters as well as our student professors? If you have questions, you can ask as well.
I do have a couple.
Yeah, right.
The team building, are you looking for the test result to improve in order to keep that? Because it seems like a really cool program to keep it regardless whether the score is going to improve or not. Or is it really just, hey, it's not working, we want to try something different? And then just a second on the solar program, I don't know if this year, are you going to build on it? Because it seems like it's really stuff with the kids, so the kids like it, that kind of thing.
Sure. One of the things we were talking about before specifically is having more recognition, maybe for showing amazing. Like the Golden Eagle Award or something where we can give that out more often. We do a fair award at the end of the year. How can we show these behavior more often this year? I do reading for they go get them. Well, but maybe not the same. But we were talking about how can we show that support? Just recognize kids more often behaviors. So it's running it. And then in terms of
although now that it was reading to go into and how often do we do a report to the beginning of units and the user? We don't really do it every single year, day. So I think we need it. All them, and then with years and about years. So when do you decide? Is a year enough for half a year enough to determine is it working or not working? Is it a year and a half? What do you feel is a good time to determine this is working? Time frame, I should say. Well, we'll follow by the IAR and see. We're really trying to target tier 2 and type 2 and type 3 as far as if the story problem or if they're trying to find someone's misunderstanding and incorrect. How long is it? The great question. I guess the data is going to try that decision as far as if it's going well. We build on it, but if it didn't go well, this is the right approach. Well, what if it is the right approach, but it just hasn't
That's all. I don't know if there's a right answer yet.
Can I just add to, we're actually, next year we will run the math committee. So all of this kind of will align, we'll grapple with some of those conversations. I know Westfield has had a lot of success with it. So I think it is, I would tell you, I think it takes more than a year. So I think you would start it, tweak it, it's a constant reevaluation. So it's a cyclical reevaluation of, let's try it. Let's try to find what's working, what's not working, make those tweaks before you just.
Good. And that's what I was thinking is, it might be great, but it just hasn't.
Yep.
Quite yet. I mean, Amy will abandon something that 4 months down the road, it could have really wild.
Yep.
I'm just,
Yeah, and again, I was good point, you give the right information to a teacher, you're gonna find fix that, or foundation, you can find fix that, I think it's EPLA, you can find fix that. I don't believe right now, the vision is the right answer, of course. I think the teachers are probably too much, and spending too much time outside when they provision needed for curriculum, teaching, right, and that's all we have, so the thing is, what can we give them? Say for teachers, developing problems, and then all the different levels of these problems. So I would love to find a curriculum, just give a teacher and say, here it is, it's academic. Go keep it together. And teach it.
I think just to add to that, too, has been doing it, the strategy, takes time to get comfortable with, because we had so many times when, students want to right away come in. It's right, we did it right, but building thinking classrooms are so much about, letting them, you take the first one, what do you do? Getting an answer, right? So it kind of takes time to get comfortable and to help them and understand. And then the more that we do to, we'll be able to see markets. And most likely we'll have the change leaders that, come out. And then who are willing to either model under their platform and more people who are comfortable, the strategy. 3 years and,
thank you.
Any other questions for this team? No? Thank you so much.
And well done, Melissa. Now we will have our presentation from our Westfield administrative team. So Mr. Larson and Ms. Vreeland, if you would, please.
Thank you so much. So you get your afterwards, so we have both under student academics and class, emotional learning, and then standard-based rating and reporting. So this was first year with all implementation standard-based rating across the board. So, still early stages of that for some people, but we're being made. So, next, we're social media. Continue with that. These are typical goal areas, but I think it's like middle school, so they tend to be around one. Then when I was going to roll through these and any questions?
Yeah. So the first thing that we continue doing this year, for Adam, was our weekly, developing and meeting. So last year, sitting together, looking at data, what students doing, where they need support, where they need help. As we continue down this year, using that like I said, to plan, lesson plan based on that data, and really just dive into how the students are doing and how we can continue big things to do.
The next one is goes with our education. You want to tell people where they need to be, here's where you need to be, and then provide them ample opportunities to meet that. So you can practice independently, or you can do something as a whole group. These are some of those comments that help students reach those levels. So each student could dive differently into each part of those guys, accelerator, paper, those resources that can really help students. You can do them independently, and you can home. Teachers also set aside time for it. And but each student would know kind of what expectations what they are, so they can give feedback on the next week. So we can get tailored different supports for the certain situations.
And we continue to collaborating closely within the building. People, one big push this year was writing samples. So it's based for a plan, or they made a plan, they for they can explain all they're thinking, so sometimes they're really difficult for students to be able to see it across all areas. Made it a lot easier for them when they do implement it. We also welcome to continue where students are engaged in learning.
Yeah, we feel like we should finish with all that. We get it, the strategy. The math data, IR data, all of that, obviously we dive into anything we get our hands on. So right now, we're going to know math close on the 19th, and then we're going to just take dive in this morning. So some of the results we have in slide are the preliminary results, and we got to today to see some of the reports coming out. They stick it lined up very close to that. For those things we can make up, so in general, we dive into that. So then it said, all the building goals, we have students that set their own goals. So in the way to tonight, they set their own goals for these, and then they work from that. They might pursue their teachers and how they're doing, and then again using the seven to help get closer. So get your winter, get you a little bit of information on how you're traveling, and then hopefully that's great. The challenge with IR, we don't see it. It's usually that is nice to the owner, you submit that to the student, you see your question.
And then another thing that came out was with our student ambassador program. It was very well received and great seeing students helping other students and helping them take ownership of it. And we also implemented like a retake kind of something that the students could go at lunch a couple days a week, get help from a teacher, retake assessment for as many opportunities as possible for them to demonstrate, that they are meeting standards.
Over to Coach Motion, you can see our Warriors 8 there. One of the letters is now in Spanish. So that is what we use in conjunction with character components and when our district is all values and all of that. To try to help students learn and you interact with others in life, community, and then going from welcoming in new people, which connects very well with our master's program. And the goal is to walk out successful at the end. So that is something we started here with. We take days and our college to figure out how to focus on the career, mission, and vision before we move in.
Yeah, and so we continue this year, we previously under MCLR, and we'll want to be students for doing that. But the other thing that we can figure out at the same time is here, so we want to have a continuation of what students are doing. We'll look at the same lessons, like they were talking about the elementary school, how we supporting students overall, resolution, just make sure everybody can be able.
We're excited to try second step. We have new teachers like that, different resources out there. We're closely with Gavin and Mr. Devlin and try to probably do what might be best for us. They're doing that room in K-5 as well. I think the picture is questions. Student vaccination, looking at two positive examples of our student vaccination. Again, I really only about welcoming new students in, get a teenager tonight, meeting, especially because she also is a sponsor of our student vaccination program. And one of the new initiatives this year was to make sure that new student walk in the door and then meeting one of our students so we can show them around, make them feel at home, answer questions for them, and then to know that they have at least one body in the building. Okay, if they move in, they might move from Roselle, and they already know the revision and travel neighbors thing. But other kids, I moved from other countries, so language can be an issue and everything else. So just having someone right there, and we even have staff to do the language, and they have to keep that. So they're well. But just trying to make sure the kids feel more and more there and then out there either social a lot of things that get judged.
It's been a really great thing to see because we've had a couple instances for students and we've had very little and working even with the language barrier of 20 feet.
Did the same for like author visit, having the lawyer meeting that author, and making sure so a lot of this.
Yeah. We continue with our FPL trainer and connection cards, just checking in with students regularly to make sure that everybody like supports feeling good about being in school, that everybody's happy and that we have somebody that they can go to, that we know they know who their person is. Then making sure making connections with students who at the beginning of the year say I don't know. Making sure connecting students with everybody.
We put into the next one there. So we need to be playing not only the academic side of reading and all that, but also the SEL side of the administrators, teachers, representatives of the team to make sure we know more about kids, how we can get connected with things. So using that data that we get a connection card or even just daily information coming their way, parents reach out to the kids themselves, obviously, go and meet with another person, building and share things. And we're using all that information to try again to connect with make sure that they're all the activities. Research shows perhaps for decades here, you're involved in things at your school. So we love it throughout that kind of gymnastics, it's great they're involved. Get it one big student health program, just anything will meeting weekly on that to say as much as we can. We'll just crazy out there, like change is back, there's no schooler, and they don't always get the answer. So knowing about them, being able to read those cues, and then assisting them being home.
I think we do want to make sure he is
And then what I found that activity events that really provide, we can get them all up, and the goal is that there's something for everyone, and we can year to year. I think Wendy shared we can check club 1 year, we there they throw with. So one of those, you never know what to do, then you want to have to be able to read those needs. Always just go to the game. Cheerleading squad in the first place. They're involved, but you know how they're focused as well for all the right reasons. Maybe one of the names they're thinking. So understanding students do across the year. There's play or bring the intelligence in. And all these things going on. That's the whole there's something everybody we try to one day.
And our last year, was standard-based training. All levels, their standard-based training according to the department and teams, we continue to refine efficiency skills, looking at to make sure all the aligned They're meeting, things, the standards. And we're continuing to look at how we're providing feedback to not only the students, but also the parents. Is the information that we're communicating accurate and is it timely and is it giving them information to show and share.
Made there. This next one, we collaborated with you, try to align closer there, so a small group of people move together and we made some decision there. I think we'll call it consistency.
And like I mentioned earlier, the reading center is another opportunity for students to get help, providing many opportunities for around the neighborhood.
We have to vote because we really think leads into how kids feel about things and how they do, but also that there's these great needs. Part of it is you should be able to publish. The goal is to publish. Here's some of our data. We have to remember the results. Again, what we saw, we tend to set the bar high. NWA suggests that 50% range, going set it higher than that. Again, our school improvement team found that 70% we shoot for. Even if you fall short of it, we'd rather do that than shoot 450 or 60 and then say, that was easy to get 66, you know, that kind of thing. So we tend to aim high. And you can see there our growth. We see tremendous growth in students. At grade level mean, we're well above what averages across the next one. And then our target growth is 59 and 66. So again, hovering above that 50%. And then IR, the numbers aren't in yet. So we don't give you some context over the years. Last year we were at 62 and 66. Prior to that, I was over there, 24, 33. But even back in the day, 2017 and 18, we were 50, 60, only 55 now. So we're trending ahead of where we used to be now. And even those were considered. Yeah, so we're very proud of the staff guys, the kids, obviously, and then last year, those numbers of 62 and 66 translated very well as the IR. So we're hoping that they all look together. We can see that in the we're not again. So in order to make sure on them as well as you know under the SEL, same thing. We always shoot for 100. We almost know we are going to fall short. It's one season to feel like there's something market it. Maybe, but it would be odd to make a goal to say, I hope that 100% kids get this or that. But that's why we don't choose 90 or 80 or 89 or anything like that. We always want to shoot for that is the goal. We know that this, a new student just moved in. They're building on day one. We're hoping they see that ambassador, but I think that's the goal. They need to be in the district and you're going to get that. We know it's not only going to be 100, but goal, and then we dive into that. Nobody should be sitting on a bunch ever. It's not saying for anything at the school ever, and hopefully there's no one out there who doesn't have at least one involved that they return to get there. Okay. Again, that's the goal of the Dark City. Not to say why I'm this happens to be, and so we're very happy that most of you feel that way. They may have other people out there, and that's fine. And then some parents and granting us to take what we did. But our goal is that we say so. We're happy to see these numbers and probably see them described.
What do you anticipate? I'm gonna ask the same question I asked the other. What do you anticipate you're going to use as building blocks for your school improvement plan for the upcoming school year?
So similar umbrella categories, but then we roll out. So whether that's a subgroup and see how that group is performing and reduce or specific subjects or anything. So like I mentioned, we meet weekly. Our reading specialist meet every Monday, then all of the other teachers 6, 7, 8 periods. Math specialists do the same on that side. Then we're going out, and then they give me 5 names. Let's look at those names. So each look down to the individual students categories. So that's what we shape our internal goals. But of course, in the building, they say, hey, let's get 7%. But if you look at the grade level right now, it's just see different numbers there as well. Growth is key as well. You know, we read that for this last year, first year, not just the so very interested in all students are growing. So anything else, you know, that yourself, and I'll evaluate the student ambassador program. I love that idea of writing. You know, we said being with people, so building off of all those things.
What questions do members of the board have for our Westfield team or our student ambassadors could ask the Westfield team?
I'm just curious, to talk about the standards-based grading. Do you have any indication, positive or negative, to how that's being accepted by parents and such? Earlier in the year, it was a little rough. I don't know if we made any progress or even have any indicators.
Yeah, I think, you know, it really comes down to people are going to be familiar with it because they didn't live it. And part of it is the exact same thing. We remember the standards haven't changed, you know, where the teachers are teaching that standard. Now it's just a different way of looking at it, that you want to go down to what you're able to do well and what you already have on and then tailor all the feedback to that. Nothing else really good. Yeah, you know, it's that be in a subject to study everything we need to know. So now it's about really down. But anything new and people didn't live it, then it's just going to seem like odd unless this bad. Really, it was always about everything, and then now just all that. And I think it's hard for some people to get like ABC. That's just with that. But of course, research showed that an A and sure was going to be an A, and you know, the rest was also. So that didn't really tell you all you needed to know, but I think we all just that's so now we're going down to standard and standard. That we can't really do it as a teacher and say, just so I think that keeps that consistent. Retakes, you're going to get arguments over like mighty letting when we do anything, but then if you look at height, we constantly decrease. So here, you know, so that kind of thing you're fighting against something that then I think he wants to see a little bit more. But our result could be better. So there's nothing to say like, okay, kids are floundering because but again, a little wait and see too, but we agree to be better than part of the students. Real lessons. Yeah, I think a lot of it was where did the begin to be taken other than and does that continue in high school as well? I can't speak to the high school, but I know well today like about our 8th grader sure use for the way to just retake until you pass. Sure, is not going to be there if they should. I hope so. That's in my that's how it works. You know, yeah, I always said it should be done. Well, India has a funny thing. If you're set up for this is what you should be good at, someone today is good and someone there is good at it. If you look at the age of kids coming in, when you look at first grade class, somebody who has 7 months of living time. Everything they did in the first time, they may have come in, but in class they have. So I think life is just constantly taste. You can have your life today, again tomorrow. So we're not setting them up for something that doesn't exist out in the world. And say it's actually the opposite. Your boss tells you this is what I need by Monday, and they don't say, no, that was about 23%. They say you have a new job. And then you start to know what will be that expectation. And then yes, sometimes you get it. So you see it as something that just can't be to it. It's really on that. But I would hold that they will have to say this. A teacher to teacher, and always back to everything. Education was known for that back in the day. You should go to your own name, so I think it's just better. She has sometimes. But the retake center here is about, you know, what research also shows is that you don't do things 10 times as you do it once. So it doesn't, it's not seen as like a cheating thing, it's seen as like you're going to do something 10 times you must really want to get it. If you do it on the first time, you do it now. This is just an opportunity for that. The goals, you know, this for the next. Yeah. I didn't invent it.
Just to add, it's not universal at Lake Park, but some departments do standardized grading at Lake Park.
Other questions?
I have a question. Like, just like in the fall,
Yeah, there are some reasons. People were involved in things. Every activity in this.
Okay, well, thank you, Westfield, and thank you to both teams. We're very excited about the achievements that you've made this year with your staffs. Real briefly, we had a community coffee on April 28th, and it was the first one that had been populated with people outside of board members. And they had questions about the number of sections of 4th and 5th grade at Erickson Elementary School. Specifically, that was their questioning. And we spent an hour and a half talking about the different things that went into those decisions that are made. And the bottom line was, is when we shared to parents that they can influence this opportunity to determine the number of sections by getting online and re-registering their students for the year before June 1st. And we will be re-emphasizing this in the course of time between now and June 1st to get more people to register their children. So we have a firm number of knowing how many returning students do we have. Because if I'm making a decision in March for something that's going to happen in August, the numbers are probably not going to match up. But I can only use the information that I have that's viable and real. But I felt the coffee went well, and we will be looking at ways to improve and augment our community coffee experiences for our community in the coming year. And finally, on Tuesday, June 13th, members of the Board of Education will be engaged in a workshop called Starting Right through the Illinois Association of School Boards. It is a self-evaluation component, which will allow us to do this in closed session. There will be food involved so that you will have something to eat. As I realize 6 o'clock does come dangerously close to the dinner hour. But I think the opportunity to learn together as a unit will be an exciting part of that whole experience. And that's all I have for you today. Okay. Oh, wait.
Yeah, for Chris.
Yep.
Will that go through, some?
Yes, it will. Oh, absolutely.
I have a question too. Will we
Yeah.
have
Not that I'm aware of. At this time, there's been no notification that there's pre-work for that.
Was that upside field?
Thank you, John. Our next item is public comments. During the public comment section of this meeting, the school board welcomes your comments. Please state your name so we can record your name and question for the meeting minutes. For those virtual, please use the raised hand option if you would like to participate during the public comment so that your microphone may be unmuted. As part of a governing body that meets in the public, we willingly take your comments as input as part of the public record of this meeting. Please note that if questions are posed to the board during your comments, your question may not receive a response this evening. Likewise, the invitation to comment does not ensure an opportunity for dialogue during the meeting with the board itself. Does anybody have any public comment? Anybody online? No? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the board reports. Recognizing that we are an hour into this meeting at this point, Tia and Veronica, I'd like to give you the option to present first for this section if you'd like, so you can move on with your evening. If you'd like to wait, yours was scheduled for the end of this part, so. Okay.
Westfield, this road is now in the different, but, we were in first place at the basketball competition on April 27th. The musical was also that week, and how to save it was at 4 shows. We had a fine band coming on May 8th. I had the results that week, and mostly everybody was having to the store, but we did say like a different one. Again, culture, they can change their own four bands, how they come. In the fire company environment. Westfield won first overall at the fire conference last Monday. And then the state council and the FEMA funding chosen on the 24th, this fund championship. And then the first one fund the 8th grade day, the 8th grade dance on May 31st. The 8th grade girls sing flag on June 2nd. The 8th grade graduation was on June 5th, and the last day of school for us. And then the official last day of school is June 5th. And we also for studying elementary school, we just finished roller coasters in science. Today's LA, we're reading Lord of Flies and The Outsiders in LA. We're doing quadratics and algebra and world wars. So let's be started on Thursday, May 11th. This is the great time of the night. Tuesday, May 23rd, there will be a talk with Officer Jackie. On Wednesday, May 24th, service was from being hosted. There also is Pittsburgh Picture Club, people started clothing services and an AR and education. On Thursday, May 25th, there will be for the night. June 2nd is the field day. June 6th, there will be 6th grade music, and June 8th, it will be the day of school. And Erica, on May 22nd, there will be distribution. May 23rd, there will be a video and information open house. On May 31st, there will be a partnership with the company. June 2nd will be a field day. June 6th will be a Thursday, and June 8th is all around this week.
Let me just state before we move on further into the reports that this is the final opportunity for Tia and Veronica to present to our Board of Education. I can't be more proud of the how they have augmented our board meetings with their presence. I would ask you girls to slide your name plates out of the nameplate holder so that you can take those with you when you're ready to go. Those are for you. It's a keepsake of your experience, as Mrs. Wojcicki would say. I can't thank you enough for the gift of your time and what you've been able to share with us. And I know both of you were responsible for a math team victory that we haven't had at Westfield for a long, long time. So thank you for everything you've done with us. So. Yes, I was there. Absolutely. I saw the teapot sing. But they were both involved in the play as well, because I saw Veronica there at the early part of the play as the beggar / witch that turned the beast into the beast. So I hate to call one of my students a witch, but that was the role. That was the role. So thank you, girls, for both. And again, you're welcome to stay, but I realize it is 8 o'clock. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good time.
And we'll see you on June 6th at the at Lake Park West's football field, because it will not be raining that night.
No, definitely.
Oh, no, it won't.
Riley.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll jump back up to the big report. So Tamara is currently the rep for Big, but I was at the one at the last meeting. The topics of interest, the library board was there and they talked about the new 24-hour locker that they have for picking up your library homes. I thought that's kind of neat. Bloomingdale Park District was there. They're opening the Oasis Pool in June and passes are on sale. Other items of interest, a lot of the other school boards from the area were there and they were talking about new members on their school boards following the election. This was the week after, week going into the installations. So they were talking about the new board members that they were seating at that time. One of the school districts that was in attendance was Glenbard, and one of their board members was talking about their solar installation that they did on their roof and saying that it's been providing 42% of their energy usage for their district, or for the building at least. So as we look into projects and re-roofing and those sort of things, perhaps that is something that we should direct the architects to consider. Something to think about. Absolutely. Linda, character counts?
Character counts, we're handing out recognition marks on August 12th. And the deadline for nomination. is July.
Carrie, do you want to talk EdFound?
Yes, Education Foundation. We did not have a meeting. We are going to be continuing to plan 25th anniversary fundraising fund for October 26th at the golf course. I don't know if we don't have any other meetings that, so we will. No, we're done. No, but we're still, yeah, it's something. Yes. So that was all for Education Foundation, and we gave, did you want to say? We gave some gift cards for teacher appreciation. Each teacher and parent in order to do directly in the classroom. Celebrating our 25th anniversary, we haven't done that before. So this year we gave $25 gift, Amazon. The 25th celebration. So it's a one time. So every teacher and every parent, because they're directly they in the classroom.
Lend, Carrie, do you want to talk or?
Yes, we have
Yeah.
called at the meeting,
Yes.
but we did meet Tony Sanders, the new state superintendent. He gave me some work. He had kind of discussed continuous school improvement, the importance for early childhood education. Teacher pipeline was a big thing for money to fund teaching certifications and just reiterating how well we do here with our peer folks. And he kind of discussed kind of his staff and what they're doing right now. And we also talked about the K through the kindergarten all day. We talked about that a little bit. There's also, we approved the 2024 budget approved. There will be a 5% increase for the they talked a little bit more about EL requirements, English language learners for requirements, and also the main exit program that was touched on just a little bit. Discuss kind of the issue with migrant students as well, that other districts were dealing with. Also touched about the special education cooperative, and talking about possibly doing segmented certifications for some teachers who do K through 2 versus 3rd through 5th. So it was a lot of it.
It was a lot.
Stuff in one meeting.
Yeah.
We do not have another meeting, I believe, until August or September. Until then, but still a lot of legislation and things still about. in the coming months.
And session's still open right now, so there's still bills waiting. And
Like I said, until the applicants and ended, we're, there's.
Everything's still in play.
Yeah, maybe after, so, but it was an overall good meeting. It was nice to see people in person, which is always nice. And we were at the community consolidated,
It's 89.
89, yeah. So, but overall good meeting. They kept it, we got out at like 9:15, so it was just a little over, but about an hour, but a lot. And still the lobby day will hopefully maybe next fall, they'll have more information on that. But right now, it's just been, so.
Thanks. NetSec.
Yes, so I got to go through my notes. I think it's more of the. Very. But what I'm trying to do is give you this update I can. So, there's one where we are meeting, so there's, I'm speaking of one where the president, I think it's, how is it, I guess, man charge, yes. Because we did it with people, what, I think it's like, we voted, there were some action items, we voted on the collective bargaining agreement with the educational association. Voted on, there was, there will be an additional classroom that's being added because of, the need, obviously, there is a recruiting principal, a new principal contract, as well as some additional Julie Warren engaged in the director of business and operations for 3 years. They will be the director of technology. He's been there for 1 year, right? Just getting the official title now. There's been some other executive operations that are taken care of at the same time. Recognition of plenty of retirements, putting them and the business assistant. Well, and they set out a new calendar for the meetings. I believe the next one is August. So, I think I got it.
Okay. The final one here is the Bloomingdale Council of Teachers. Carrie and I had our first meeting with the council. It was just kind of an introductory meeting to learn about each other and what our goals are. There was a little bit of business discussed, but yeah, everything was kind of just smooth. Carrie, anything else to?
That was great to meet everybody.
Yes. Okay. With that,
If you don't mind.
oh, yeah, absolutely, please.
But we did have something that came from my state, so John, when I wrote, sent
Yes.
communications to our state rep. It was for Senate Bill 990, which is basically it's anti-school district, well, negative effect of school districts, I should say. So what basically it is for any property that a school district is looking to sell, they have to get 2 appraisals and then make an offer to a government entity for them to buy it at the average of those 2 appraisal prices. Now, downside of that is depending on the market. We could actually get, or a school district, I should say, could actually get it higher. Think about it today, try to buy a house, most of the housing market now, you're actually to get, the seller's market, so it's above the asking price. The downside of this is whatever the average price is, we have to make that first offer to a municipality. The flip side of that is, they don't have to do it for us. So let's say the village of Bloomingdale has property, they don't have to offer this. The park district doesn't have to offer it, it's only schools. So it has a potential negative impact on us. But other school districts throughout the state is not good. So ISBM for a negative modifier state rep, it's already passed the Senate, but it has not yet moved the opposite perspective.
I'm curious, what issue are they trying to address?
That's a great question.
It's hard to say.
It really hasn't been shared.
If you can understand that, maybe you see some logic in it, but
Yeah, I know there's a Democratic senator who was championing the.
Usually these are sourced in the sponsoring legislators community with their displeasure over something that may have happened. And it could be that they have the interest or a friend who had an interest in this, and they felt that that the school district went for the highest possible sale cost for property, and so they wanted to regulate it.
As they should.
yeah, seems like responsible for it anyway.
That's exactly the verbiage I used for setting it the representative of San Luis.
Well, yeah.
Is, we're very fiscally prudent school district. Why would we not want to? It helps all of our taxpayers.
Right.
Hopefully it goes nowhere, but I just wanted to share.
And this only pertains to real estate property.
Yes, and, yeah.
Is that something that you ever on the farm?
In our history, we have sold some property to Markland to help with their parking lot here, which we then use the proceeds from that property sale to help complete the ADA playground that is Heritage Art. With, again, at no additional taxpayer cost. It was a convenient transaction because the amount that was sold was exactly the amount that was needed. And they've been fundraising privately for the ADA playground through a parent organization for years, but they were stumbling because they couldn't quite get to the level that they needed. And as you know, over the course of time, prices rise. So that's the only example of property sale that we've been involved in since I've been here.
And I think that's
So-
our meeting. that-
Yeah, this came up at Len.
Yes, I haven't kind of put it down for now. And
In the house, yeah. Dead for this session, but
for this, we should be-
Just came out, came out, there's a dog is, that the principal is saying that it's almost impossible to do that bullying, where a bullying case is reported to parents with the bullying violence by the principal.
that was coming up, they said, that the school has to do anything that they can to make sure that the parent is notified, and I think they talked about the feasibility of doing that if it happens, on Friday, and it's not till Monday, that's over 24 hours, right? So they had some, I know they brought up some issues about that, but they were going back talking about the language that's in the bill to make it so that, the school wants to, in all of its efforts to make information to the parent, but, will they get dinged or, something happen if it is under 24 hours. So they're looking at, I think, the language of that one is what I remember in the conversation.
that sounds right.
So we'll keep that one posted that we, that's something we only know. Another one.
Keep an eye on. Yeah. Okay, moving along, there were 5 FOIA requests that are summarized in your board packets. Do we have any questions on these requests?
The emails were from a Roselle resident who lives in District 12. They were, I think, trying to gather information for an idea as to what kinds of communications do superintendents send their staff. And the only other superintendent outside of District 12 who I heard received this FOIA was Wooddale 7. And that doesn't make a lot of sense to me either, but that's just the way it was. Shannon did a wonderful job in not only handling the request, but then getting our virtual David Burkus involved, who was involved in gathering the emails. And then we had to send it to our attorneys so that the emails could be redacted for the things that don't pertain to the original request. And then we sent the response in. So Shannon did fantastic work in getting that all organized and done within the timelines of the original request, which can be, this wasn't as I shouldn't say easy, but it wasn't as easy to fulfill as other requests that we have that are on this list that just required us to give a copy of all the bidders from our last parking lot project bidding. I mean, that's pretty easy to fulfill. This one had multiple layers, and of course, we will be paying the attorney's fees for their involvement in this as well. So it's an expensive request on top of it all, but ultimately, in the end, I can only say that I can speculate that he has something that he's trying to seek that may be more locally, a more local issue for Roselle than it is for District 13. It had really nothing to do with us. Other than, well, how do I communicate with my staff between that period of time?
And then we do the program to see the request of the other four, are they typical?
Typical.
Almost
Yes, there are commercial interests that come through and they want to know who's bidding or what the bid results were so that they can get a sense of what's the market for this kind of work.
And even the contract, rates,
Yeah.
their actual quotes.
Under the Freedom of Information Act, as a public entity, we're required to respond within certain days unless there are specific reasons we don't have to. Just when we see something we have a question about, we always ask our attorneys. But that's a quick summary of one of the more bizarre Freedom of Information Act requests we've had.
I was gonna say that, leave that open, then anybody can request, except our attorneys vote on stuff, we're not.
Exactly.
All right, this evening we have 7 action items. Our first action item is the resolution establishing depository of school funds. Is there a motion for the board to approve the resolution as presented?
Sorry.
We got it. Yeah, is there any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Ms. Whitaker, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Peterson, aye. Mrs. Berry, aye. Mr. Carroll, aye. Mr. Jones, aye. Mrs. McCarthy, Mr. Liddy.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Our second item is the resolution to give authority to designated personnel for the purpose of assigning funds. Is there a motion for the board to approve the resolution as presented? Any discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Ms. Whitaker, can you please call the roll?
Yes.
Mrs. McCarthy. Mr. Carroll, aye. Mr. Jones, aye. Ms. Peterson, aye. Mrs. Berry, aye. Mr. Liddy.
Aye, motion passes 6-0. The next item is the Illinois Association of School Boards, IASB membership renewal. Is there a motion for the board to approve the renewal of the membership with the IASB?
Second.
Any discussion?
Okay, this is a roll call vote. Ms. Whitaker, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Devil? Ms. Peterson? Aye. Mr. George? Aye. Mrs. McCarthy? Aye. Mrs. Debbie? Aye. Mr. Juanito?
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. The next item is the treasurer's bond. Is there a motion for the board to approve the treasurer's bond as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Sorry, Pam, I was asking for a second. Any discussion? Okay. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Whitaker, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Debbie? Ms. Peterson? Aye. Carol? Ms. Debbie? Aye. Mr. Juanito?
Aye. The next item is the second reading of the amendments to the board policies and the Westfield student handbook. Is there a motion to approve the second reading as presented?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Just real briefly, the elementary handbook will be coming along. We couldn't get it completely updated in time for tonight's meeting. I will be bringing a second reading for this, for the elementary handbook at our next meeting, so that it can be in the hands of our parents in time for the start of the next school year. The questions I've received over the policies included over the policy indicating the selection of library materials. I think one of the things that we put in here was that we go through a system in which our librarians take a look at what are what is age appropriate for our students and in the selection of new materials. And inside the policy is a way for parents who may not agree with the selection of those materials to petition us as a school district for removal of an item in our library. And then it goes through a process internally before a reply is given to the parent who may file the claim against this particular book. All community members have the opportunity to receive lists of what is housed in our libraries upon a request. But I think that the policy that's in here helps supports that process and allows us to select materials that are appropriate. But I also base this judgment on the professionalism of our library staff. And up to this point, we've not had any filings for objections of books in our libraries up to this point.
Yeah, just clarify, our books basically support.
They do. For a wider selection of materials, I always will recommend that the Bloomingdale Public Library carries more titles for consideration for the community. Ours are more focused on support of our curriculum and essentially general student interest. I'll say general student interest.
No, that's the recent thing has legislation and the contains primarily just public library, so funding in the state, but is that any like get any type of grants for library purposes?
We get a small library grant. Nicole, do you want to just kind of?
$1,000.
It does not amount to much, but we do get a grant.
So, yeah.
But that's typically it's us that our funds fund upgrades in our library. And our library gets augmented when we do things like approve the Amplify CK ELA series. There'll be titles coming in that will be part of overall libraries of our students.
Any other discussion, questions? No? This is a roll call vote. Ms. Whitaker, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Peterson, aye. Ms. McDermott, aye. Mr. Darrow, aye. Mr. McEwen,
I
Mr. Liberty, aye. Mr. Lee.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. The next item is the Westfield parking lot. Is there a motion for the board to approve the Westfield parking lot project as presented?
So moved.
Any discussion?
Just real briefly, I did get a question on this. The architects involved here did look into our lowest responsive bidder to determine if they were the lowest responsive bidder, because there's a clear separation between their projected bid versus others. And what I can say is that based on the conversations that our architect had with the bidder being recommended tonight, they fully understand what the expectations of this project are and stood by their bid during this process. So that's why this bid is being brought forward at this time.
now, if they're looking at all the other, it seems like the initial estimate by our architects was way above even the highest that came in. Is that different? Such a high discrepancy.
Sometimes it's the schedule that can determine things. Sometimes people bid so that they can have their just name exposure in a school district that they're bidding on these projects. Some people bid in such a way that they don't necessarily believe that they're going to get the bid. Sometimes it's just because it's a favor to an architect or a business or a buildings and ground person. The fact is that depending on the project and depending on the availability and depending on the cost of materials, all kind of add up. With the price of gas and being that it's involved in the creation of the asphalt that will eventually be laid on top of this parking lot, and the cost of whatever the gravel or other products that are going to have to be dug up, incomplete, and then refilled and reinforced in the space of phase one of this parking lot removal and improvement. That's all involved in this, and so therefore, I was as shocked as anybody to see the cost. Happily surprised, I might add. But I will say that I wasn't expecting that, and I think our architects base their costs on similar projects with their engineers' input as to the cost of materials to come up with the projected cost for budgets. But ultimately, this is in time so that even Ms. Varhala will be smiling as a result of the results of this project, as it doesn't cost $330,000. So
Is there any type of guarantee that we're?
they stand by their work. They have to bond themselves to the work that they're going to do. So they have to stand by what they.
What's the life expectancy?
That's a great question that I cannot answer that question. I know a lot of things, but the lifespan of a parking lot is not my area. But I would say that typically parking lots last a long time depending on what's on top of that surface. The area that we're looking at hasn't been done in a long, long time probably since that gym was built as an addition to Westfield. So that's probably the original parking lot. 2001, Stefan? Yeah. So it stood for.
Yeah.
That's a long time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You consider we're going to do everything we can to hold on to this. Yeah.
Just look at it.
Yeah. It looked very nice in the end.
Yeah. Okay, this is a roll call vote. Ms. Whitaker, can you please call the roll?
Mrs. Wisecki. Aye. Mrs. Denny.
I,
Mr. Carroll. Mr. McGillen. Ms. Peterson. Aye. Mr. Lavisa.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. The final action item for this evening is the approval of the district consolidated grant. Is there a motion for the board to approve the district consolidated grant as presented?
So second.
Any discussion?
Just a quick question on the title. Do we have any idea that amount?
no, it's a space. Yeah, I mean, we have 77 students who will be counted in the evidence-based funding, but I don't know if there's a number. Sorry, I didn't mean to look across, but no. Yeah, it just says you're approved to apply.
Mr. Carroll, what I will tell you is that we've never been able to qualify for the Title III grant until this year. So we have no history to report as to what we've received in the past is zero. So this is a new opportunity.
Might be combined over
Yes,
in 1 year. Or in this case.
yes,
They've called multiple times to confirm that the numbers are correct.
yes.
Yeah. I said it is. So they were like, okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Whitaker, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Peterson. Aye. Mr. Carroll. Aye. Mr. McGillen.
I
Mrs. Wisecki. Aye. Mrs. Denny. Aye. Mr. Lavisa.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Discussion items this evening. We have 3 items for discussion tonight, and I will let Dr. Bartelt introduce these items.
Let's begin with budget preparation. Ms. Varhala has already been hard at work putting together the structure of a budget for the district. At the August meeting, she will share the tentative budget for fiscal year 24. On the 11th of September, we will have our summer project walkthrough as well as a finance committee as a whole so that you can go dive deeper into the budget numbers. And then at our September regular meeting will be the opportunity to approve, the public hearing will occur, and then the approval of that budget will take place at that meeting. We have to have it done by the end of September anyway. That is a statutory requirement. But Ms. Varhala is here to share with you some assumptions that are going into the development of the budget this time and and to entertain any questions you might have.
So right now, as you all know, expenditures obviously increasing, our revenue is decreasing. The difficult part right now with the budget is our revenues are decreasing. We know we're losing our ESSER funding. We know our PPR2 or corporate property tax that we were told is going down, but we don't know what down means. And we also don't know our title grants or ID grants, what we're actually getting. We're estimating it to be around similar last year with the addition of Title III, hopefully giving us an extra boost, but we don't have those numbers and we won't have them until probably August at the earliest. So it's difficult, more so this year than any other year to budget, just in the inflation environment we are working in. But we do know our expenses, like I said, everything's going up. Our tax levy on the positive, we did get about 4.84%. That we asked for was capped at 5, plus we got some new free money, so that kind of brings us over to that 5% mark. So we did, get everything that they said we did, so we didn't leave anything on the table, so that's fantastic. We have our medical insurance that's increasing by 5%, our dental is increasing by 3%, our workers' compensation insurance is actually increasing by 37%. And then obviously we have our collective bargaining agreement that has been previously worked on at 3.5% and about 4.5% for our teaching staff. We have the new curriculum coming up. The West Coast thankfully gave us a little bit of a reprieve with that outcome. Our transportation contract is about 4% increase for this year. And then obviously losing our concert fund, which between last year and this year was about $800,000. It's no longer available on the table. So just again, some of the struggles we're facing now. We will have, again, as the months go on, we'll get more of those revenue numbers to come out. The only strong thing working for our revenue is obviously interest are so good. We're trying to capitalize on those, funds that we can move in, still hitting the 4 and 5% return on our investments. So that's kind of helping us a little bit versus our investments last year, which was maybe 18,000 for the entire year. We well exceeded that. So we're hoping to kind of keep that momentum for next year as well. And then we'll obviously start seeing it taper off just with the economy. So still a lot of unknowns. The knowns that we do know aren't really becoming very favorable, but we, I'm working with all the departments and the principals to make sure we can be fiscal responsible with the funds that we do have and make sure we provide what we need to the person.
Are there any questions? Oh, yeah. Well, you know that we've had the one workers' comp piece that's been out there since 2013. And it's contributing to the problem, as well as another employee who had a rotator cuff surgery and has not been able to recover in time to come back to work in their role as a paraprofessional. So those two things together created the opportunity for our cooperative that handles workers' comp insurance to let us know how much they love us through a rate increase of double digits. Unfortunately, but there's nothing that we are able to do about it.
But we're still in co-op.
Yes. And in our efforts to try to look and see if there's other options available to us, we were told there are not other options available to us right now. So we'll have to do this a little bit more quietly going forward. But I think we will look out in the interest of the district, but ultimately we're going to have to stay with our affiliation with our workers' comp provider. Other questions? The next item I have is our salary recommendations for fiscal year 24 for the employees that are not covered by a collective bargaining agreement, with the exception of one, and that's the one who's talking to you. We are proposing a 4% increase for all of our non-union staff. The assumption that we put in here is what makes it somewhat fair. I think that we have in your hands a handout that we passed out that kind of breaks things out a little bit more in detail by group, so that you can take a look at that and see how that appears. What I will share with you is that should the board in the June 26th regular meeting accept the administration's recommendation for a 4% increase, what I would say is that our tier 10 administrators would not be given goals to incentivize them to earn additional funds. The 4% would be what they would get along with the rest of the group. It's my belief that based on the performance of our district this year, that a 4% increase is a reasonable request to make of the board with a 5% property tax collection that we would be getting in the coming tax collection year. I also will add that we are going to provide more than a 4% increase to our special education paraprofessionals who do not have the opportunity to augment their income by substitute teaching and do some of the hardest work in our school district in terms of dealing with students that are emotionally fragile, who are take a lot different path towards learning than our general education population. And for that, we're talking about a modest increase that might be 4,000 to 8,000 over in aggregate for all of the people in that group. $4,000 to $8,000 more in terms of $1 or $2 increase to their hourly rate, as opposed to a percentage increase to the hourly rate, which ends up being a little bit less than that. We don't feel bad for our general education paraprofessionals because they do have the opportunity to sub, and that's they make a great deal of money, more than the hourly rate that they typically are hired on to perform when they're not subbing. Do you have any questions about this request? And by the way, if there's questions that you don't, this topic does qualify for our closed session for compensation of employees. So if this is something you have questions that you'd like to ask, I will ask Ms. Barhala this day for the beginning of closed session to answer any questions at that time, unless you have ones you'd like to ask at the current time.
After the custodial,
Mhm.
one I see that was dropping. Is it less staff? Is it just less?
It's the same amount of factors, some categories that are coming up, and her numbers are, they, we're getting a little more expensive.
The aggregate drops as a result of retirees. Any other questions?
What is, parent votes?
So right now, we still are not going down to fair code for the current year. We've had some fair codes come and then sort of leave us afterwards, so we've had that transition. So this is in hopes that we would be fully staffed with what we need for fair codes. And obviously, again, depending on the enrollment data, putting maybe additional, fair codes in those classes that might have to end up being a little bit more bigger class sizes than normal. So giving those teachers that extra support. So that really that's that sort of thing.
And then the general 4% increase of the status against the.
So based on our peers, we are still kind of middle to the upper of the tier for our paraprofessionals, with the additional options that you see in your packet. So we do feel we're pretty competitive, but obviously, again, with any of these salaries, knowing if we invest in our teachers and our staff, it's going to automatically, be returned for our students.
Any other questions? Okay, the last item I have is extra duty offerings for the upcoming year. I appreciate the principals who are still with us. Yes, I'm talking about you. The principals provided a list of the different things which were summarized by Ms. Whitaker in the attachment here. Again, we see some new offerings. I know that Tia and Veronica brought up the idea of Science Olympiad as a potential, and I think we have a sponsor of Science Club who might take that and make that a part of that Science Club experience for middle school students at Westfield. There are several kids clubs that were created over at Erickson based on the Above and Beyond Award winner from, I believe it was last month. And those will likely be offered at the beginning of the year to see, and they require an adult sponsor. So those are new. And I think all of our principals know that as some areas decrease in popularity, they have the freedom not to offer those extra duties. And at the same time, if other areas become more popular or new ideas that are proposed, that they can create that within the budget of monies that they have available in their extra duty accounts. So, when chess club goes from 7 to 70, you need more than one sponsor to be there to handle the load. But if the reverse were true, you might not consider offering that club or activity in the upcoming school year, just until there's more student interest in wanting to be involved in something of that nature. So what you see here is the kind of the tentative list of things that we were going to start the year with. They're in the process right now of soliciting staff members to fill those roles. And that'll be more seen in the coming months as we start school in the fall. Are there any questions on our extra duties? That's all I have.
All right, thanks, John. Next is topics for future agendas. This is the opportunity for any board member to request an item for future inclusion in the agenda for an upcoming meeting. Does anyone have any topics they would like to see on a future agenda? Nope. Okay, the last item here, or next item, there are two items of information for your review in the board packet, the enrollment report and the NEDSEC profile. And with that, we are ready to move into closed session. Do we have a motion to go into closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body?
Second.
This is a roll call vote. Ms. Whitaker, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Aaron. Aye. Mr. Benny. Aye. Mr. Gallo. Aye. Mr. Peterson. Aye. Mr. Mondredi. Aye. Mr. Lemay.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. After 5 minutes, is that reasonable?
Yeah.
That 5-minute break, we'll begin the closed session.